friends. I'm Elle and this is Kenny, and we are the creators of Grow Kids, the children's ministry curriculum and annual strategy from Stuff You Can Use. In this video, we are going to show you how to strategically plan an entire year of kids ministry in 6 key areas: discipleship, teaching, environments, events, families, and volunteers.
All right, we're going to use a lot of examples from Grow in this video, but you don't actually have to use Grow curriculum in order to find this video helpful. Whether you use our curriculum or not, this video will teach you a strategy that you can use, and we're going to share it all with you, all of our secrets, everything, because we like you.
That's true. But if you are using Grow curriculum in your ministry, this video is going to give you a really big head start in planning your year. It's going to help you see how all of the pieces of your curriculum fit together and why we place them all on the calendar in the places that we have.
Yes, and now you could watch this video on your own, but we highly recommend going through this video with some other members of your team so that you can all collaboratively plan your year together. For you Grow users, we made this easy by giving you physical and printable versions of all the cards you see in this video so you can build your own board. And in fact, right now, you're seeing some calendars that Grow users have made for their own ministries.
They're so pretty. And just a reminder, everything that you will hear about in this video is actually available as a resource that you can customize and use this year through Grow curriculum. That means every single teaching series, teaching theme, event, discipleship activity, all the meetings, discussions, conversations, celebrations, everything is included in volume 7 of Grow curriculum. So if you are not only looking for the strategy that we're going to walk through in this video, but also the resources to pull it all off, just head to growcurriculum.org for free samples and more info. Okay, ready to get started? Let's do it.
All right, let's go over these 6 key areas again. We've got discipleship, teaching, events, environments, volunteers, and families. And right now, we're going to start by unpacking our annual discipleship strategy.
Yeah, and we start with the discipleship strategy because we want spiritual growth to be the lens through which we see everything else that we're going to do this year. So your church might have its own approach to discipleship and spiritual formation, but here's how we approach it and Grow. And feel free to borrow this if it works for you. Now, we believe there are 4 spiritual habits that help all of us, kids and teenagers included, grow closer to God. And they are spend time with God, spend time with others, know and use your gifts, and share your story.
These 4 habits aren't anything new, and you may already be talking about them in your own unique way at your church. So feel free to change the language to fit your specific context because the words are not the important thing here. What is important is making a plan to help kids and teenagers engage in these 4 spiritual habits on a regular basis, year after year, so that they can continue to grow closer to God.
So in the Grow annual strategy, we break our year into 4 quarters and assign 1 spiritual habit to each of those quarters. Then, with that spiritual habit in mind, we spend 3 months creating experiences, activities, and tools to help kids and teenagers grow in that specific area. Now, because these habits are so significant, we found the most strategic places for these habits to live on your calendar, and we're going to show them to you.
Every fall, we focus on spending time with others. It's the time of year when kids are thinking about school, classes, joining new sports teams, and the people that they want to spend time with. So much is changing in their social lives each fall that it's the perfect place to get them talking about how to engage in healthy community with others.
So this fall in Grow Kids, we are providing all the tools that you need for the Get to Know You card game. With this simple game, kids will get to share and talk about all of their favorite things as they connect with each other and with their leaders. They'll practice having conversations and asking good questions as they spend time with each other.
Every winter, we focus on the habit of knowing and using your gifts because the Christmas holidays are coming up, which means your community is filled with chances to serve and give. This year in Grow Kids, we're providing everything you need to do an activity called the What Can I Do Challenge. During this activity, kids will get a chance to use their talents and gifts to help serve, show love, and make a difference in their communities. Plus, you'll see in the next section of this walkthrough video how this ties in with the series that we're teaching.
Then every spring, after you've built some trust with kids and families over the course of the year, we think that is the perfect time to go deeper by focusing on spending time with God. This year, we've created an activity called the Bible Buddy Reading Plan. You'll get a curated reading plan to help your kids begin to build the habit of reading the Bible by reading with a friend.
And lastly, we have the spiritual habit of sharing your story. We focus on this spiritual habit every summer because it's the time of year when churches are often thinking about mission experiences. Plus, it's a great time to get kids excited about their upcoming year and the ways that they can share the story of Jesus with others. This year in Grow Kids, we've got an activity called the Show Your Story Challenge. With this new spin on show and tell, kids will get to bring in and share about an item that helps them explain part of their faith story so far.
So that's what the Grow Discipleship Strategy looks like. But now let's talk about what we're teaching.
Each year, it's important to plan ahead for the topics in scripture you plan to cover with your kids. It's tempting to spend your Wednesday afternoons Googling free kids ministry sermons or punching some prompts into an AI generator, but we think you can do better than that, and we're here to help.
When we fail to plan ahead with our teaching calendar, we run the risk of missing important ideas or teaching only what interests us personally, or ultimately failing to give kids a full and holistic view of God. And that is a really big deal. So please plan ahead.
Yes, there are so many ways to approach a scope and sequence for kids, but here's how we do it. The Grow Scope and Sequence will take kids through every major Bible story over the course of 3 years. The Old Testament is taught chronologically over the course of 3 years, while the New Testament is taught chronologically every year, but with different stories. We will always switch from the Old to New Testament stories in December with the birth of Jesus, and then switch back to the Old Testament in June, 6 months later. When 3 years are up, we'll start all over again in the same order, and we spend an equal amount of time in the Old and New Testaments.
So once you have the stories that you want to cover identified, you're going to want to place them on the calendar in order, but this is big. Don't forget to consider how you can strategically align your teaching calendar with these spiritual habits that you're focusing on every quarter. This is why you're putting everything up on one single board, so you can see how every aspect of your ministry actually works together.
Here's a quick overview of this year's teaching calendar from Grow Kids curriculum and why we've placed each teaching series where we've placed them. If you're starting Grow for the first time, we recommend starting with Blast Off, our series that covers the 4 spiritual habits of our discipleship strategy. With Blast Off, you'll give kids a look at all 4 habits by looking at 4 stories from the Gospels and how these stories teach us the importance of each spiritual habit 1 week at a time.
Now for this video, we're going to assume August is the beginning of a new school year for you, but if you happen to be in a hemisphere where your school year starts in January, that is totally fine. With Grow and this whole strategy, you can get started any time of year. It is all customizable. But in August, that is where we are really going to kick things off with the Grow Kids Scope and Sequence and a new school year. So in our fall quarter, we always cover Old Testament stories with New Testament connections. So this August, we're going to look at the story of Joseph and his dreams during a series called In Your Dreams, where we'll talk about how God was with Joseph and is with us too.
In September, we'll cover stories from the book of Exodus. That's where we'll look at Moses and his leadership during Israel's escape from Egypt with a series called Lead the Way. And then to wrap up the first quarter in October, we'll follow Israel through the wilderness in a series called Are We There Yet? This series is all about following God even when we feel lost.
In November, we'll wrap up our time in the Old Testament for now with a series about Joshua that's called On the Right Track. That's where we'll see the choices Joshua made as he led Israel into the promised land that they had been waiting for.
Then in December, we'll transition into the New Testament with a Christmas series called Christmas Vacation, where we'll tell all of the classic Christmas stories from Scripture to see how Jesus' birth really is the very best Christmas gift.
In January, now that we're in the New Testament half of our year, we'll do a series called What Can I Do? This series is all about Jesus' early life and ministry, so we'll spend time learning not only about Jesus' big mission, but how God wants to use us for great things too. This series also pairs with the What Can I Do challenge that we mentioned in the discipleship strategy of this video, and that wraps up our winter quarter.
To kick off our spring quarter in February, we're doing another series from the New Testament called Wow. We'll focus on some of the most amazing miracles Jesus did and what they can show us about the power he has to do incredible things. After that, in March, our Easter series is called Glow in the Dark, which will help us see how Jesus' life and resurrection brought light into the world and into our lives.
So that's 4 months spent in the New Testament so far, but we still have 2 to go before we switch back to the Old Testament. In April, our series is called Throwback, where we'll see how Jesus' words and teachings are timeless and still matter for us today. Then in May, we'll kick off our summer quarter and wrap up our time in the New Testament with a series on the early church called One Small Step. In this series, we'll learn about some of the first Jesus followers and how small steps of obedience to God really can change the world.
For the rest of the summer, we'll head back to the Old Testament for 2 more series. In June, we've got Recess, which is a series on key moments in the lives of the judges, Ruth and Samuel. And finally, in July, the series Turn It Up will introduce us to David and his early life as a poet, musician, and king.
So that's what our teaching strategy looks like for this year, but you get to now make this strategy work for you. So go look at your church calendar, figure out what stories and books of the Bible you want to teach and in what order and in which months. Find out if your church is doing any church-wide campaigns or teaching series that will affect your kids and adjust accordingly. Think about the rhythms of your kids and your community and make adjustments to fit your church's unique needs.
And don't forget to compare what you're teaching to your discipleship strategy to see how you can use both of these strategies to support and reinforce each other. Remember, this is all customizable, so take what works for you and adjust what doesn't.
Yeah, the point is this. You need a teaching strategy. And when you align your teaching strategy with your discipleship strategy, you'll be able to focus and reinforce these big ideas so much more effectively. So go ahead, make it your own, and then start dreaming about some of the specifics of what your teaching could look like this year. In this next part of the video, we will talk about your weekly environments.
As you start to develop your teaching strategy in more detail, adding some interesting weekly environment elements like special decor, songs, activities, snacks, or crafts to enhance that month's teaching. This is so important because the right environment can help your teaching really stick in the minds of your kids. So, for this round of planning, we're going to assign a monthly decorating theme to each teaching series that directly complements what you're teaching.
And now when we say themes, there is a lot that could include. Things like decor, graphics, music, special funny characters, costumes, props, puppets, activities, playlists. The possibilities are pretty endless. But remember, if you're using Grow Kids curriculum, we have thought through all of this for you. And if you're not using Grow, that is totally fine. Just feel free to steal our ideas and make them happen on your own. Either way, here are the monthly themes that we're doing in Grow this year and how they connect to what we're teaching.
For the introductory series Blast Off, which you get as a little freebie, since we're talking about how to launch your faith in Jesus to greater heights, we'll be using the theme of rocket ships in outer space. Think space-themed activities and games, decor, and graphics that use planets and stars and rocket ships, coloring pages, object lessons, all of that stuff will be outer space themed.
When we talk about Joseph's life in August series In Your Dreams, we'll focus on some of the spectacular dreams that Joseph had. So we'll be recreating the perfect dreamscape environment with a nighttime theme.
When we cover the way Moses led Israel out of Egypt during Lead the Way, we'll use a jungle adventure theme full of daring obstacles and challenges to help us understand how to follow God's guidance.
When we tell the story of Israel wandering through the wilderness during Are We There Yet?, we'll place ourselves right in the middle of the story as we cross through an endless desert. So get ready for lots of desert-themed ideas.
For our series on Joshua, we're taking our journey on the road as we race around obstacles and get to the promised lands in this car-themed series.
Our Christmas series, Christmas Vacation, has a Christmas theme, of course, but for this one, you're going to want to trade in your Christmas sweaters for some Christmas sunglasses and swim gear for this tropical Christmas theme.
Then, in What Can I Do? Since we're talking about Jesus growing up and looking toward his future ministry, our theme is all about professions and grown-up careers.
In WOW, we'll use the theme of STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and math, to talk about the amazing miracles of Jesus. Then in our Easter series, Glow in the Dark, we'll use the theme of neon and glow in the dark to help kids see that Jesus is the light.
Our series Throwback will bring back some nostalgia for our leaders as we talk about how Jesus' teachings are timeless through our theme of retro trends.
In One Small Step, our series on the early church, we are using an outer space theme to talk about how with Jesus, one small step made in faith can have a huge impact for all of humanity.
Then, as we head back to the Old Testament for Ruth and Judges for our series Recess, we'll use a playground theme and talk about some of the judges kids might be familiar with, like referees in their favorite playground games.
And finally, in Turn It Up, our series on David, we'll use a music theme to help guide us through the story of David's life as a musician, poet, and king. And that is the plan for Volume 7 of Grow Kids.
And remember, no matter which curriculum you're using, the point is you need a strategy for your weekly environments. And a great way to make your weekly environment more strategic is to give it a theme that complements your monthly teaching.
Now, whatever you decide to do for your kids this year, just remember, you can be a lot more effective with your teaching by pairing it with that strategic monthly theme we've been talking about. And you can be a lot more efficient by planning all of those themes in advance, like a whole year at a time. Now, up next, we are going to talk about our special events.
We've already covered 3 areas that are all about kids with our discipleship, teaching, and weekly environment strategies. But we've got one more strategy to talk about that relates directly to your kids, and that is your event strategy.
Now, events are a pretty big deal for most children's ministries. They are a way to have fun, connect with families, get new families in the door, and create some excitement about your church. Those things are all really important, but if we're honest, we probably know that we can overdo it a little bit sometimes with our events, you know?
Events matter, but we've got to keep things in perspective and think strategically. That's why we're fans of keeping your event strategy really simple, because you can make a bigger impact each year if you choose to do fewer events with more intentionality. Here's our recommendation for keeping your event strategy simple in kids ministry. Just do one event each quarter plus a VBS. And that's it.
So here's what that could look like. In the fall, we suggest doing a fun family event. And since this quarter is all about the spiritual habit of spending time with others, maybe use this event as an opportunity to let kids and families strategically connect with each other. In Grow Kids Volume 7, we will kick things off with an awesome game night called Let's Kick It. It's an event packed with silly spins on kickball and other kickball-inspired fun.
In the winter, remember that families are probably pretty busy leading up to the holidays, so do a simple, fun, and maybe even free event for families that allows them to make some holiday memories together. This year in Grow Kids, we're doing a water-free, super cool pool party because why not have summertime all the time? This event comes with tons of fun games, crafts, and activities inspired by the best summer pool parties, but minus the pool and plus a bunch of wintry or Christmassy activities.
In the spring and summer, when the weather is warming up and families are looking for some fun things to do out of the house, do some fun events that get families together and maybe even make them open to your whole community too. This year in Grow Kids, we are giving you everything you need, first of all, to plan the perfect Easter-themed crafting party and an event called Crazy Craft Day for the spring.
Then for the summer, we've got a super fun Olympic-themed event called Go for the Gold, which is packed with kid-friendly activities inspired by everyone's favorite worldwide competition. And finally, don't forget to add a VBS to your event strategy.
Depending on your context, you might do a VBS in May, June, or July, whatever works for you. Either way, every year Grow Kids produces a free, complete VBS resource, so you'll have everything you need to make this event happen.
Your event strategy is most effective when it works for you, your kids, and your church. So feel free to adjust anything you want and adapt it to make it fit your context. And now that we've wrapped up our kids strategy, let's talk about our volunteers. We're convinced there are 7 ways to invest in volunteers, and all 7 of them need to be represented on your annual calendar. It might sound overwhelming at first, but it doesn't have to be, we promise.
We believe that if we want to be effective as pastors and leaders, we need to get really serious about investing in and empowering the volunteers we lead. When we do that, we can multiply our influence, increase the capacity of our ministry, and give kids and teenagers a better shot at building a lifelong faith. And all the research shows us how young people need not just one pastor, but a whole community of adults who are all investing in them and in their faith. Plus, if you want volunteers to invest in kids and teenagers, it's probably a good idea for you you to invest in your volunteers first.
When planning your year of investment in volunteers, you're going to need to consider these 7 things for volunteers: events, meetings, discussion groups, one-on-one conversations, tools, communication, and celebrations. And again, we know that sounds like a lot, but here's the thing. We can build all 7 of these areas into your calendar in ways that aren't overwhelming. We get it. We've been pastors and actually developed this strategy while we were still pastoring. We know you don't have countless hours to spend leading volunteers, so we want to help you be really intentional and strategic about doing things that require the least amount of work for the biggest impact.
So with that in mind, let's break down each of these 7 things and give you an idea of what's included in Grow for each of these areas. So first, we have volunteer events. We have just one of these each year on the calendar, and that's in August to kick off the school year. This volunteer kickoff event is designed to be your one major vision casting moment of the whole year. It comes with inspiration, practical training, helpful tools, and relationship building to get your team really off on the right foot. And with Grow, you already have everything that you need to pull it all off. So that's cool.
Next, we have meetings. Meetings are any environment where you are training volunteers on a specific subject related to their specific needs as a volunteer. If you can say it in an email, just send an email. Don't call a meeting. Save your meetings for the good stuff, the times when you want to teach, discuss, and spend time with your team. Our recommendation is getting together with your whole team every other month. So that's 6 times a year. With our August kickoff event, we can skip September and put the next meeting in October. Then, since no one wants to have an informational meeting in December, let's replace our meeting with a Christmas party. We can add a meeting in February and April, but since June is the end of the school year, let's have another party.
So that's 6 get-togethers with your team throughout the year, including your annual kickoff event and a couple of parties. That means you have 3 windows this year to train your team on something specific. So what do you want to train them on? Well, if you're using Grow, you have access to tons of volunteer meeting outlines on all sorts of helpful topics, and they all come with discussion questions for your team. However you decide to organize this is totally up to you, but here is the point. Plan to meet with your team throughout the year in whatever rhythm works best for you. And when you do meet with them, make sure to teach them something really, really helpful.
Next, we have discussion groups. A discussion group is a type of volunteer get-together that can transform your ministry's volunteer culture. In a volunteer discussion group, instead of training your volunteers like you're the expert, even though, of course, you are an expert, the goal is to ask questions that get your volunteers sharing stories, talking to each other, and helping each other solve their own problems. These discussion groups are about spotlighting your volunteers as the experts and learning from and with them for a change. How many of these groups you do each year will depend on how many volunteers that you have. We recommend doing them at least once a year, but no more than 6 times. And when you do them, schedule them during months when you don't already have an event, meeting, or party already scheduled.
Next, we've got one-on-one conversations with volunteers. These conversations are another way to connect with your volunteers, and we recommend putting these on your calendar every single week if you can, or at least every month. In these one-on-ones, the goal is to give feedback to your volunteers about how they're doing and to receive feedback from them about how your ministry is doing at equipping and supporting them.
Next, we have one of my favorite ways to invest in volunteers, and those are your celebrations. We are big believers that what you celebrate in ministry gets repeated, and that honoring your volunteers for who they are is a huge part of creating a volunteer culture that makes people want to serve with you. So each month, we recommend celebrating a weird holiday with your volunteers in a way that appreciates them or makes a fun memory with them. Maybe that's a DIY cupcake decorating station on National Cupcake Decorating Day, or a mysterious thank you card that can only be read in the mirror for Backwards Day. Whatever it is, the point is that you take time each month to make your volunteers feel cared for. And sending weekly thank you notes and monthly birthday cards are a great idea too.
Next, we've got communication, because if you're going to invest well in your volunteers, you need to communicate with them at least every week. So we've given you all of the emails for the entire year already written and designed. tons of volunteer tip videos, and a social media plan with images and captions already done for you to help you stay in touch with them. And new this year, we've got volunteer devotionals that go along with every single teaching series. So volunteers can follow along with a weekly devotional and grow alongside the teenagers that they lead.
And last but not least, volunteer tools. By this, we mean any resource you give your volunteers that makes their job easier. On the calendar, you'll see volunteer tools like a volunteer handbook, volunteer business cards, a volunteer survey, volunteer goals, and volunteer t-shirts. We suggest giving these tools away in August to begin the year and then refreshing them throughout the year or at your volunteer meetings.
And after that, you're done. A full year of volunteer strategy. Feel free to copy as much of our strategy and calendar as you'd like, then change the rest to fit your unique context. We hope this volunteer strategy honestly revolutionizes your ministry for the better, because remember, you are not just a pastor to kids or teenagers, you are a pastor to your volunteers too. And as we'll talk about in the next section, you're a pastor to families too.
Okay, you're almost there. The very last thing you need to strategize in your annual planning meeting is the thing we sometimes save until last, and that is how you'll engage parents, caregivers, and families in your ministry.
When it comes to families, let's be honest, we could probably all do a better job of engaging them. But we're about to unpack a framework for your family strategy that you can replicate and improve year after year to help you level up how you engage with families. So here we go. We are convinced the key to engaging and investing in parents and caregivers effectively is to plan an annual strategy in 7 ways, and they are the same 7 things that we talked about with volunteers, so hopefully they're easy to remember. That's family events, parent meetings, parent discussion groups, one-on-one conversations with families, parent tools, parent communication, and parent celebration. And when we say parent, just keep in mind we mean any caregiver who is in a parental role.
All right, let's start with events. Like we've already said, we recommend doing the fewest events you can manage for the biggest impact. Each year, we love the idea of doing just a handful of strategic events for parents, and we include those events each year and grow. In August, there's an open house designed to introduce new families to your ministry and expose them to your ministry philosophy and strategy.
Then in October each year, we recommend doing a parent and small group leader breakfast to help connect parents with the small group leaders of their kids or students. Together, they can understand their common goal, which is influencing and caring for the young person that they both love. We recommend doing this event in October each year because the school year is already in progress, because small groups are probably somewhat settled and consistent, and because there has been plenty of time for your small group leaders to actually meet and connect with families before that event actually happens.
And every January, we recommend hosting a parent workshop, an event where you provide parents and caregivers practical training on how to love, lead, and disciple their children. This year, our parent workshop in both Grow Students and Grow Kids is tackling the topic of how to use your gifts to serve as a family.
Next, we have parent meetings. Now, if you've been using the Grow strategy for a while, these are brand new in Volume 7. Meetings are any environment where you are delivering information to parents that they really need. There shouldn't be a ton of these on your calendar throughout the year, though. You might need to call an official parent meeting, maybe before a big event or a trip, or maybe during a crisis in your community, or during a big transition at your church. These are the moments when you have something important to share, and it really can't be done in an email. How many meetings you'll need and when you'll need them really depends on what's going on in your church and when.
And next, we've got parent discussion groups. Like the volunteer discussion groups, parent discussion groups are environments where you get to learn from and with real parents. We recommend doing 1 or 2 of these each year whenever your least busy months are for families. Once you've got parents in the room, ask questions to tap into their expertise as parents. What can you learn from them? What are their biggest struggles? How can you better serve them?
Next, we've got one-on-one conversations with parents, and these two are brand new to Grow. Like with parent meetings, these conversations with parents aren't necessarily things you can plan for in advance. They're usually things that happen kind of unexpectedly. So this could be because a family is in crisis, or as a response to a concerning behavior, or a parent has a question or a concern. You'll probably want to be ready for these to pop up at any time.
Okay, here's a fifth way to invest in families, and this one is brand new to Grow in this volume too. Just like we talked about the importance of celebrating volunteers, parents deserve to be celebrated too. Parenting can be difficult sometimes, and your church has the opportunity to help parents feel even more seen, encouraged, and supported. Each month, we recommend celebrating parents in ways that are inspired by the same weird holidays that you're using to celebrate your volunteers. So while you're setting up a DIY cupcake decorating station for your volunteers on National Cake Decorating Day, set one up for parents too, or send every parent a mysterious, encouraging note that can only be read in the mirror backwards for Backwards Day at the same time you're writing those individual cards for your volunteers. Whatever you do, the point is that you take time each month to make parents feel seen and cared for. And the good news, it doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming.
Next, we've got communication, because just like we said for volunteers, if you're going to invest well in families, you do have to communicate with them. We recommend sending parents an email once every month with information about what's happening in your ministry and resources that will help serve and equip them as parents. In Grow, we've written and designed all of these emails for you, and we created a ton of parent tip videos that you can send to parents every month or refilm with members of your team. And new this year, just like we said for volunteers, we've got parent devotionals that go along with every single teaching series so that parents can follow a weekly devotional and grow alongside their kids or teenagers.
And last but not least, we've got parent tools. Throughout the year, there are so many helpful and practical tools you could give parents to help serve and equip them, but here are a few that Grow provides. In August, we recommend giving parents a parent handbook to better understand your ministry's mission and strategy. Volunteer business cards with the names, photos, and contact information of their kids' adult leaders, and an annual parent survey to help you learn about how to best serve and communicate with families. We recommend providing these same tools again in October at your breakfast event and having extras on hand for whenever you need them.
And there you have it. Your final assignment is this: plan out your annual family strategy for the year, but then take a look at everything you've done and accomplished in this planning meeting. Is there anything that you would like to change or tweak now that everything is up on the board and visible? Are there any pieces of your calendar that you'd like to get feedback on before you finalize them? Is there anyone who couldn't make it to this meeting, but whose voice you'd really like to hear from before you finish all of your annual planning?
If you've answered yes to any of those questions, go do something about it. Don't let this just become another project that's left unfinished. Really, go do it. Make it awesome. We know that it's a lot to do and think about, but as the year goes by, your calendar fills up, you will be so happy that you did this.
And with that, thank you so much for hanging with us. But more importantly, thank you for all that you do in your ministry. Your work is so important, and we are so excited that you've taken the time to be more intentional, strategic, and prepared for this upcoming year of ministry. You are amazing, seriously.
All right, see you later.
Bye.